Hello and welcome. Abir Pothi brings you another session of Samvaad with none other than Muzaffar Ali, legendary filmmaker, poet, writer, fashion designer, philanthropist, and a social worker. He has been very passionately painting from last few years. I would like to invite Muzaffar Ali for having wonderful conversation with us, hoping to have, hoping to learn a lot of things from Muzaffar. Welcome, Muzaffar, for Samvad.
Thank you.
Uh, See, we have always, I've always seen you as a very dear friend, but when we go for something like this, there's a gap becomes wider, you become huge and I become young artist
Oh God.
who's wanting and aspiring to be like you. So I would like to ask you one thing, which is, of course, the platform represent art, and we are going to talk about the art, craft, and design. So let's start with when did your relationship start with art?
I think, artists are to a great extent born with art. If you're not born with art, it's very difficult to relate art to different stages of your life, different experiences of your life. And you have to be instinctive about art. So I think without wanting to be an artist, I was an artist. And as a child, I used to paint and sketch and draw. And I qualified more as a artist in my class. I used to get the class art prize. And then slowly, when I moved on to Calcutta, I took art more seriously. In 1968, I had an exhibition of my paintings. So I think it's a very intimate way of connecting with yourself and your world around you and people around you. And I think, and the other thing is that art is a very holistic uh, experience. It's a very holistic way of looking at life. It's art is like being as human as possible, as humanly human as possible, and as artistic as possible. I think there's no art without understanding poetry. There's no art without understanding music. There's no art without understanding all the nuances of life around you. So I think I've tried to live this role. I've been, I mean, it's a big challenge for me to 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 be an artist and to feel. I mean, it's also very challenging in a very kind of a threatening situation to be an artist. It's not easy to be an artist. If you're just a casual person, then it's all right. But if you're an artist who's trying to be compared to other artists and your art is putting, I hate being put to test. So I think this is another thing about an artist is that you want to be tested, yet at the same time you don't want to be tested. So art has been, to that extent, a very kind of a challenging aspect of my life. But it has stayed with me. It has stood by me. I've always used it for everything. What you talked about me in the beginning. I mean, I've used it in my poetic understanding of life. I've used it in my Sufi understanding of life. I've used it in my films. I think in my films, my art has been of great value because I've looked at each frame as a painting, as a realistic painting, as an abstract painting, and it's helped me in in being a little different to other filmmakers. So that is what I think my journey as an artist has been and will be.
You said a lot of things. I see if I sum up in one sentence, for you, art is way of life. You experience art in every possible way, and you want to enhance that experience every single day, and you want to become better every single day. You are also experiencing different format of art in your own fashion, and you are trying to understand and master, and eventually you have mastered the craft. I would like to say one thing: when you are talking about painting, music, poetry, and all other different aspect of art, how do you see yourself amalgamating everything and making one big mixture of this, and experience or articulate that, how does one articulate his or her understanding of all different form of art in one single painting or in one single composition or one single shot of film? How does that happen?
I think that's the challenge. That's the unnerving part of art. That's when you feel that you have to, um, you're asking yourself questions which very often even you can't answer. I mean,
Oh,
you means I can't answer. So it's very tough, because I've been doing a lot of very different things with art, and I dread to show them, and I mean, I enjoy looking at them, but at the same time, certain things when they come out, they make a lot of sense. Like even on stage, if I do a festival like Jahan Khosrow, for me, each moment is a painting. It's each sequence is like a kind of a cinematic montage. तो वो थोड़ा सा you have to think a little fluidly, think a little differently, and I think I get a lot of my inspiration from people. I think people are my inspiration. If I don't work with people, there is no art. Art is essentially working with craftsmen. It's working with carpenters. It's working with painters. It's working with you know the whole the human aspect of art is really the most challenging aspect. And in that sense, for me, human opinion is also very important. I have to keep getting reassured by human opinion about what I'm trying to do. So that's an interesting thing, because it keeps me connected with human beings. It keeps me connected with color, form, texture. So at least I'm all the time relating to people through people through. It's like I'm working for people all the time. So yeah.
so you talk about art the way, for you art is way of living. You experience art, you learn from people, you extract positivity and artistic essence from people. What I would like to ask is, are you trying to reclaim anything? Are you trying to connect dots here? Are you trying to do that?
नहीं यार, वो गालिब का शेर है ना, बक रहा हूँ जुनू में क्या क्या कुछ कुछ ना समझे खुदा करे कोई. I'm just babbling. I don't know what I'm saying, but I don't even know what I'm doing. But somewhere something is making sense and should make sense. I'm a little embarrassed about what I'm saying and doing all the time. But I think somewhere something is happening, something is making sense. This, and I feel I'm growing. I feel I'm growing with whatever I'm doing, and I feel I'm like a child. And the interesting thing is that I'm going. Being a child, you also want to stick to one age. You don't want to suddenly shoot up as a child. So that is also very important. I was trying to stick to my grandson's age, but now I think he's become too smart for me.
So
So what he
remaining
does
a
is
child.
I paint with him, and then what he does
Okay.
is that on the canvas he first puts his own name, Imani, and then
Okay.
when I do anything, he keeps saying, "Oh, that's rather interesting. That's rather interesting." So I
Okay.
think he's become a bit of a chore. So I have to
So remaining a
be
child
really,
is key.
huh?
Okay, I understand. So remaining a child is the key, I guess, to
I
keep
think
learning.
remaining as a child is the key, because I was trying to tell him, let's do one thing, let's get all your paint and let's paint chapak, So he loved the idea of doing chapak, on the walls. But as we were doing chapak, his mother came and fired the life out of him. After that, chapak finished.
The Chapak project is now on hold
Chapak
for a
खत्म हो
while.
गया.
Yeah, on hold for a while, I would say.
Yeah. No,
Because
no,
once you try
he's
something, you
he's
do it,
getting
right?
ready for bigger chapaks.
So you get it. So you talk about your music festival. How did the whole idea came into picture, and how did you manifest? I mean, what happened, and why did you want to have
I
that
think
music
this
festival?
this is a thing which I'm now writing about, and as I'm writing, I'm also visualizing it as a kind of a virtual experience, because this festival has been a landmark of festivals to me.
Of
I've
course.
seen so much in life, but I think the whole spiritual journey of discovering uh, a character like Amir Khusro. I mean, he could be a subject for a painting. He could be a subject for a film. He's that enormity of his thought process, and how he connects with a lot of other similar thought processes of his time, and ahead and beyond his time, and even people, contemporary people, how they've been inspired by him, and how to make this a kind of a expression on stage. So this has been a big challenge for me, and for over 20 years, I've slowly grown with this idea, and I've grown to the extent that I don't even now know how to define how I've grown. So defining how I've grown is, I think, another artistic process, And I don't know, maybe it will turn out into paintings, it will turn out into, because I've been doing a lot of interesting work on horses,
Yeah.
So the other day I was reading Amir Khusro wrote 90 books, And out of
Okay.
one book was a book on Aspnama, which is the Ghode pe Asp is called a horse. So he's written a whole book of poetry on horses, about I mean इसकी पूरी वो है, लेकिन but I'm sure how a poet describes a horse must be something else, artist visualizing a horse is one thing, but a poet describing a horse is
Yeah.
something else, so I think imagery is something which is fluid, it's intercultural, it's timeless, it comes from so many different inspirations, and you cannot. I mean, I'd love to feel free and feel as abstract as possible, but somewhere one gets into imagery, which is like a trap, and at the same time, it's a very liberating trap.
Of
So,
course.
मतलब so Jahan Khosrow has been that kind of a thing where a lot of music and words have given me strength to visualize things. And over 22 years, through so many different voices coming from different parts of the world, different instruments, how music and poetry come together, how music dictates poetry, how poetry dictates music. These are things that one has learned from the likes of Khosrow. So Jahan Khosrow has been that kind of a journey, and I
Yeah.
hope I can be more articulate about it so that people can understand little more about Khosrow and what he has done to other artists of his time and beyond his time. So what I'm saying is that all art is connected. There's no such thing as one art leave, leaving the other art behind, or moving beyond the realm of that art. So that is a big challenge, to be able to keep abreast of all the arts that are somehow touching you.
Yes. So, see, music is a very fluid experience, as you said. It's very liberating. It's asthai bhav, It's not going to be remain there forever. Once you experience that music, of course, there are recordings and stuff like that. They're available. But when you are experience somebody's kalam in person, When the kalam is over, you leave that experience. You can only go back to that memory and experience that. Whereas when you become a designer, it's something stationary. It's going to be there. You have to. It has a physical form. It has its own articulation, its own limitations, its own language. So when you are a designer, how does that happen? How does Muzaffar Ali will think when he's thinking of a garment? The same Muzaffar Ali who thinks a design or an artistic journey as a spiritual journey. So when you are a designer, how do you
See,
go about it?
see, all design is created for a dynamic role in life. There's no such design where you just see the design from a frozen dimension. You see design moving. You see design as a kind of a manifestation of dynamics. It's design is not a static thing. Maybe even if you look at a still photograph, it's a frozen image, but it has taken all the elements that move and taken it to a point where it has just frozen. But as far as design is concerned, it is meant for a dynamic role in society, whether if you take clothes or even if you take a horse or you take a car, or you take anything, or you take a table, or you look at any piece of furniture, it is meant to be experienced in a tactile, physical, humanly friendly way. You know what I mean? So that way, I think, and that is why how cultures which have gone through a renaissance, they take design into another zone. They take design into a zone of a even an economic evolution. Because I think in India what has happened is that a lot of things have got we've been treated as, I would say, consumers and not as creators. So we have to now rise above from a from a position of being consumers to being creators. And creators are global entities. There's no such creation which is only meant for your own kind of household. It's not just meant for your asoi. It's meant for a bigger consumption, uh, for a bigger global presence. And for some reason, we've been left behind and we've been looked at. India is the big market and it continues to be the big market. We have to create the markets. We have to set the agenda, for creation and creativity. I mean, even if the old Maharaja, they were being fed कि ये Rolls Royce ले लो इसका ये सूट ले लो इससे ये फोटो खिंचवा लो. We have to set the agenda. We have to tell people, the world that we are setting the norms. You're not setting the norms for us. So that way, that sensitivity in human beings has to be re-inculcated. Like now, what it was and what it has become is something we've lost the plot. But now we have to recreate the plot, and the plot can be recreated only out of a very open, fluid mind, which is open to ideas, open to influences, open to markets, open to world needs, all that kind of stuff. हिंदुस्तान से लोग भाग जाते हैं विलायत, फिर उनको वो वहीं जाके बस जाते हैं और सोचते हैं यहाँ हमको we are getting freedom, we are getting this and we are getting that. But the challenge is on our soil. We have to dig into our soil and create beauty. And unless we do that, I think we are losing the plot
I
as
remember,
artists.
I remember once you mentioned about Darpe Rosi project of
Dwar
yours,
pe rozi, yeah.
Darpe Rosi project of yours, where you
Huh?
wanted to empower women of Kotwara and you wanted them
Yeah.
to, give some work at their doorsteps, and that is how you said the whole label Kotwara by Mira and Muzaffar had started. So you have been a public person. You've been there for people, and you have also maintained
See, I
a
have been an
solidity.
artist. Art has been, huh?
I was asking you that
What?
how do you maintain
Huh?
to be how did you maintain to be your person? And because you are there, you born prince. Your father was Raja of Kotwara. You were expected to be there for people. You largely live
I
in a
should be
public.
there actually. I shouldn't be sitting here, People need me there more than they need me here because they are quite helpless in villages today.
Yeah.
In
So how
fact,
do you manage to remain this Muzaffar, a person who is not catering to, who is supposed to cater to a lot of people, who is doing that, but still he has his own self. In his solitude, he pick up the brush and start painting. In his solitude, he pick up the brush and start making new colors and learning natural dyes, go for a morning walk and pick up those leaves and come back with feathers and leaves in his bag. And how do you remain this person after being so much in public life? And how did that journey start? Uh, because now you are a professional, I can say you are a professional painter. You have done shows and people have bought your work. So you are there and you are exhibiting your work. So how do you remain that painter uh, besides huge besides huge expectations of role you're supposed to play?
I think to be anything, you have to be a combination of both anguish and concern and joy. So I think the joy of living and the anguish of living have to go hand in hand. So all the art is born out of the combination of joy and anguish. And all my films have been born out of that uh, anguish of why people leave villages and go to big cities, or even other issues that I've touched upon in Umrao Jaan also. It's about the a helpless child in a kind of a callous society. So, and also women have been a very inspiring, have played an inspiring role in my films because there's nothing more touching than human helplessness. And
Yes,
even if you take somebody like Khosrow, most of his work, you feel that it's a woman speaking. It's a woman who's helpless, a woman child, a girl child. So I think these are things that have always appealed to me as an artist and will continue to appeal to me as an artist and as a
okay.
person. And whatever I do should be able to somewhere down the line benefit these people. And painting is just another way of feeling that. I would say that femininity, that sensitivity of looking at the world in a different way. I think the beauty of India has been the way a woman looks at, at the country, at the at the at at society, like, and that is what gives a culture a certain kind of vibrance.
Yes,
And
yes,
wherever a woman, you don't see the vibrance from a woman's point of view. You find culture is hardening. The hardening
yes,
of culture is a very dangerous thing.
yes.
So that's what is very important. I mean, even if you take a somebody like Ram, Maryada Parshottam, but if you don't see him through the eyes of Sita, you are losing
Yes.
the plot. So
Though it was Muzaffar, though it was not planned to have a Women's Day spirit in the interview, but you said a lot of things about women, so I'm very happy and glad that
you
you
can.
shared
Uh,
that insight. So thank you so much for that. You just mentioned that you like to work with people and you work with a lot of young people, and you have also been an esteemed jury for Abir India 2 years back, and you have witnessed a lot of young artist artwork. Uh, so, how do you see young Indian artists shaping up? What is their inspiration? Where it is coming from? They are like, volcano of talent, and they don't know how to synergize with
I think
the place.
what you
So,
do, what you are doing is a very big thing. You are making liberating artists. You are making them feel free. You are making them feel confident. I think that's something which, when you think back, you're the only person who seems to be doing this. And Abir is is a kind of a is a landmark. It's a milestone in artistic journeys of young people.
Yeah.
So that way, I think your what you have done is enough to say everything about this matter. I
No,
mean, I feel that artists
thank you
should
for your
feel
kind
free.
words.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your kind words. But I wanted to ask you is how do you think this young generation is going and where they are going, and how do you feel the art is going to be in next coming 5-10 years, and how it is shaping? And you keep witnessing young people's exhibitions and artworks. So I wanted to ask that. But thank you so much for your kind words which you just shared about Ravi, and I'm really grateful for that. And see that because of COVID, a lot of things have changed, and we need to keep up with the new normal which we've been pushed into. Right? We are talking virtually right now, and you have been always person who experience and interact with art and engage with art and exchange emotion with art. How do you say it's going to pan out, and what is this new digital era means to you?
See, digital era means today everything. You can show how art is being made. You can show so many different ways of explaining art. There's this new uh, cryptocurrency which is going to change the face of art. So all kinds of things are going to happen, and there are two things. One is the a sense of freedom that is going to that is required for artists. I think that is very important. In India, we need that sense of freedom, the sense of freedom of the spirit, the sense of freedom of the soul, and the sense of freedom of reaching out to big markets. So I think that is something which a lot of young people who are into this whole
Digital
digital
era?
mindset, they'll discover for themselves how to reach out, which I
Yes.
think even galleries can't help them. They have to do it themselves, and we need to look at art as a freedom struggle. I think it's the first serious intellectual artistic freedom struggle. I mean, which the artist is facing. You need uh, several Gandhis, you need several uh, people to now relay the paths, to relay the whole
Yeah,
पूरी
absolutely.
उसकी जो मैपिंग करना पड़ेगी दोबारा आपको art mapping is very crucial today. Besides the intensity of your feeling, the mapping is required, and the young people will map it for themselves, and people like you are going to help them to map it. And so art is going to see something, is going to see a sea change, because today, in the last, let's say, 1 year, people have had more time than they've ever had. क्योंकि आजकल क्या है, if you go out तो सुबह से जाइए शाम को एक दिन पूरा निकल जाता है. अब you've had 360 odd days of do your art. And so I'm sure a lot of art has gone through your head and come out of your fingers, and it's bound to create that what should I say, that newly that highly needed renaissance which art needs in this country. And
Yes. So you said
also
something
the
very
minds of
you said
yep.
something very important that with the digital era artists can reach out to places where even art galleries cannot help them to be. So I think that's the lesson we're going to learn from this, whatever you shared with us, and let's take home that we have huge responsibility when it comes to young India, young artists of India, where people like you validate and will show faith in us. It becomes it becomes more important for us to live up to that expectation. And Muzaffar, it's been great talking to you, and we learned a lot. It was such an enriching conversation, and we'll try, and I'll try and remain the child which you were trying to, which all your life you're trying to be one, and the quest of seeking should not stop. So thank you so
how's
much
your
for your time, and
how's your dog?
I would. I would always remember this very, very enriching conversation for years to come. Thank you so much, Muzaffar.